everyone in this body could have been present at the hearing before the Civil Law Subcommittee that I chaired a couple of days ago. When was it? About this issue. It was very moving. We heard from both sides on the issue. And I don't know what the magic number is for extending the statute of limitations, but I think everybody is in favor of extending the statute of limitations. The issue came up as to should it be 8 years, which is what the body down the hall apparently is considering, or 25 years, which is what the bill provided for, or something in between, or some other number. In order to try to deal with this, there were several victims of child abuse who were present, two of whom had testified. A third had not previously testified before the subcommittee. And I asked one of the victims who testified very movingly about his experiences as a child being abused sexually. And I don't recall how old he was or is today, but I asked him at what point in his life could he begin to talk about it. He talked about not repressed memory, but rather the fact the fact that it took him years before he could begin to express himself on this issue and tell other people about it. And I asked him at what point could he have felt that he could have gone to see a lawyer or filed a lawsuit or done something about it and expressed publicly and openly what happened to him. Now, let me go back. A child can bring a suit after 18. If it happens to you when you're a child, with the offense, the cause of action accrues at the age of 18. You have 2 years within which to bring the suit, except for the repressed memory issue. That means at the age of 20 would be the time when the statute of limitations would have run. You could not bring suit after the age of 20. So I asked him the question, at what age could he have brought the suit? He said he was 37 years old before he could begin to talk about it publicly and maybe do something about it. 37, 19 years after he was 18. Then a lady stood up who was a victim who had previously testified. I said, ask her, how old were you before you could begin to talk about it and deal with it publicly and perhaps go see a lawyer, do something about it? And I believe she said, if I'm not mistaken, something like 47 years old. And then a gentleman stood up who had not previously spoken, who came just to listen. He was an older gentleman, and he started talking about his experiences. And his hands were trembling. He was sweating. He said he even today has a hard time talking about what happened to him as a child. And I asked him, when could he have begun to talk about it publicly and go see a lawyer and perhaps do something about it? And he said he was 60 years old before he could deal with this issue. Now, I don't know what the statute of limitations should be, but I don't think it should be the 2 years as it is now. I don't think it should be 8 years, which is what apparently the body down the hall is considering. Is 20 correct? Well, we looked at what other states have done, and they're kind of all over the place. There's no standard guideline. But the committee decided, let's go with 20. It's not the 25, but it needs to be up there. When you have 3 witnesses who came, who spoke movingly, one said it was 19 years later, another 29 years later, another age 60 before he could begin to do something about it. You know this is the kind of crime that is repressed. People don't want to talk about it. It scars them for life. And they testified movingly about how it damaged them for life. And it still bothers them. But I think we need to come up with a figure way beyond the 8 years, Mr. President. The committee adopted, both in the subcommittee, on a strong vote, the year of 20 years statute of limitations. The full committee, on a strong vote, went with the subcommittee's recommendation of 20 years, and I would hope that we would adopt the committee's substitute, the committee's amendment. I believe it's the amendment that the committee adopted, and I would move that the committee amendment be adopted, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Harrisonburg.
To the amendment,
Senator has the floor.
I would urge everyone to vote for the committee amendment. This is not about churches. In fact, the Virginia Interfaith Center says that most of the religious leaders in Virginia support this legislation. And this is not about nonprofits. This is about victims. And we have so many child victims in this Commonwealth. Several years ago, the senator from Southern Fairfax and I served on a commission dealing with child sexual abuse. And I'm embarrassed to tell you that the estimate at that time was 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 7 boys would be sexually abused before they were 18. That was a number of years ago. So we've been looking for more recent information, and Fairfax County is telling us we're still there. 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 7 boys will be sexually abused before they're 18. This bill is about the victim, the child victim. It is not about churches. It is not about nonprofits. We have to be able to give assurances to these children as they grow older that they can get justice. They need justice. And we need to make it equally clear to the scumbags and perverts out there preying on our children that we will not forget. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just speak twice to the measure, and then I'll shut up for the rest of the session. And I see some applause on that. You know, I think, first of all, Senator